the Honolulu Strangler. Between 1985 and 1986, something changed in Honolulu. This was supposed to be paradise. Postcard sunsets, tourist laughter drifting through Waikiki, trade winds sliding through palm trees like nature whispering a lullaby. But beneath that beauty, fear began moving quietly through the city. Women were disappearing, and then they were being found. The man responsible would never be identified. He would become known as the Honolulu Strangler, and decades later, no one knows who he was. In May of 1985, 25-year-old Vicky Gale Purdy was reported missing. She was last seen in Honolulu. Young, independent, known to spend time in nightlife areas. When she vanished, it did not immediately trigger panic. Adults disappear sometimes. People relocate. People drift. But weeks later, her body was discovered. She had been killed and left in a public area. The details unsettled investigators. This was not random violence. This was deliberate, controlled, personal. Then it happened again and again. Between 1985 and 1986, at least 5 women were killed in Honolulu in a pattern that became impossible to ignore. The confirmed victims: Vicky Gale Purdy, Judy Mack, Patricia Patty Duff, Deborah Spickler, Cynthia Moreland. Each woman was strangled. Each body was left outdoors, often posed or placed deliberately. And each case carried similarities too strong to dismiss. Honolulu did not have a serial killer reputation. This was not New York in the 1970s. This was not Los Angeles at the height of urban crime waves. This was Hawaii. The shock factor amplified everything. Residents began locking doors they once left open. Women avoided walking alone at night. The nightlife dimmed with anxiety. Police quietly formed a task force. The media gave him a name: the Honolulu Strangler. What makes this case especially haunting is not just the killings. It is the pattern. Most of the victims had connections to the nightlife scene. Some were known to engage in sex work. That fact, unfortunately, shaped the early response. Cases involving marginalized women often struggle to receive immediate urgency. In 1985, that reality was even more pronounced. But once similarities became undeniable, law enforcement moved aggressively. Autopsies confirmed strangulation in each case. The killer demonstrated control. Strangulation requires proximity. It requires time. It is not impulsive violence. It is intimate. Investigators believe the killer likely approached victims willingly. Perhaps he presented himself as safe, calm, trustworthy. There were no clear signs of forced abduction in several cases, which meant something chilling. He could blend in. Honolulu is not a massive city. Even in the mid-1980s, it had a close community structure. Word travels quickly on an island. Rumors began spreading. Was he military? Was he a local? Was he a tourist who never stayed long? The island geography created a unique pressure. Escaping Hawaii is not as simple as driving across a state line. Travel requires flights or ships, records, documentation, which meant investigators believed the killer was likely someone rooted there, or someone comfortable navigating the island without raising suspicion. Then came 1986. The final confirmed victim was discovered. And then, it stopped. No dramatic arrest. No suspect publicly charged. No deathbed confession. Just silence. The killings ended as abruptly as they began. And that is where the case shifts from terrifying to deeply unsettling. Because serial offenders rarely stop without a reason. So what happened? Theory 1. He was arrested for another crime. Some believe the killer may have been incarcerated for an unrelated offense. Drug charges, assault, military discipline, something that removed him from society. But no direct link has ever been confirmed. Theory 2. He left Hawaii. If he was military personnel stationed temporarily on the island, reassignment could explain the sudden stop. In the 1980s, Hawaii had significant military presence. Transfers were common. Could the killings have continued elsewhere under a different jurisdiction? It is possible, but no definitive cross-state match has been publicly confirmed. Theory 3. He died. Accidents happen. Illness happens. Violence happens. If the killer died shortly after 1986, the series would naturally end. But again, no proof. And Theory 4, perhaps the most disturbing, he simply stopped. Some serial offenders pause. They age. They marry. They adapt. The urge that once dominated them recedes or is suppressed. Imagine living next door to someone who once hunted at night, and then just chose normalcy. That possibility unsettles many to this day. Investigators worked with what they had. They collected forensic evidence available in the mid-1980s. But DNA technology was not what it is today. Samples that might have solved the case instantly in 2026 were far more limited in 1985. In later years, cold case reviews revisited the evidence. DNA testing was reattempted as technology advanced. But the Honolulu Strangler remains unidentified. And that fact speaks loudly. It suggests he left very little behind. No witnesses who could confidently identify him. No fingerprints that matched known offenders. No obvious suspect with enough evidence to charge. Just a pattern of violence and a void where a name should be. There were suspects. There always are. Some individuals were questioned. Some men in the area with criminal histories drew attention. But none could be conclusively tied to all 5 murders. Investigators believe the killer likely had knowledge of Honolulu's layout. The body disposal sites were not random. They showed familiarity. He knew where he could leave someone without immediate detection, but not so hidden that they would never be found. That detail matters. Some experts believe he wanted discovery, not to be caught, but to be known. There is a difference. The media coverage at the time walked a delicate line. On one hand, authorities needed the public alert. On the other, panic could spiral quickly in a tourism-driven economy. Hawaii's image as paradise was part of its livelihood. A serial killer roaming the island threatened more than safety. It threatened identity. But the women lost were not headlines. They were people. Vicky, Judy, Patty, Deborah, Cynthia, daughters, friends, individuals with stories that did not deserve to end in a statistic. And yet decades later, many outside Hawaii barely know their names. As the years passed, the case cooled publicly but never fully disappeared. True crime researchers revisited it. Podcasts discussed it. Online communities speculated. Some compared behavioral patterns to other unsolved strangulation cases on the mainland. But no direct link has been proven. One detail that continues to intrigue investigators is the time frame. The murders occurred in a relatively tight window. This suggests escalation. Serial offenders often shorten the time between crimes as confidence grows. If that pattern had continued, the death toll might have climbed. But it didn't. And that interruption is the mystery inside the mystery. Let's consider the psychological profile. Strangulation indicates control and physical dominance. The killer likely felt empowered by proximity. He was not distant. He was present, watching fear up close. The posing of bodies suggests staging, a desire to create a message or maintain ritual. Ritual behaviors are hard to abandon, which brings us back to the central question. Why did it stop? Was he caught for something minor? Did he relocate and begin again elsewhere? Did he age out of his compulsion? Or is the answer sitting in an evidence locker, waiting for technology to catch up? In recent decades, genetic genealogy has solved cases once thought impossible. Across the United States, cold cases from the 1970s and 1980s have been cracked open by DNA submitted to ancestry databases. Could the Honolulu Strangler eventually be identified through similar methods? It is possible. But that depends on the quality and preservation of biological evidence from the crime scenes. If viable DNA exists, the clock may simply be ticking toward eventual identification. If not, the case may remain a ghost in the archives. Imagine Honolulu in 1986. The killings have stopped, but no one feels safe. Because when a killer is caught, fear has a boundary. When a killer vanishes without explanation, fear becomes fog. Anyone could have been him. The neighbor, the co-worker, the quiet man at the bar. That uncertainty lingers longer than headlines. Today, the Honolulu skyline glows brighter than it did in the 1980s. New buildings, new generations, new tourists. But somewhere in police records, 5 names sit together in a file, linked by method, linked by time, linked by a man without a face. The Honolulu Strangler was never unmasked. And until he is, every theory remains speculation. Every suspect remains unproven. Every answer remains incomplete. The women deserve more than mystery. They deserve identification of the person responsible. They deserve accountability that never came. And perhaps one day, advancing forensic science will reopen this case in a way that transforms silence into resolution. But until that day arrives, The question remains suspended over the island like a storm that never fully clears. Who was he? And where did he go? This case remains open.